Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredibly powerful, scientifically validated world of traditional African diets. Look, if you've been struggling with your gut health and you're just throwing money at trendy, expensive supplements, you're definitely going to want to pay close attention. We're exploring this fascinating intersection where deep cultural heritage meets cutting-edge microbiome science.
So we have to start with a massive problem caused by modern urbanization. It's what scientists are calling an invisible extinction of the ancestral, beneficial bacteria in our gut. Research mapping the rural to urban transition in sub-Saharan Africa is showing us a really concerning trend. As populations move into urban centers and switch over to modern, low-fiber diets, there's a literal ecological collapse happening right inside the digestive tract. We are rapidly losing the specific fiber-degrading specialist bacteria that actually co-evolved with us, our microscopic old friends, so to speak.
Now, hit pause for a second because this next number is staggering. Nearly 70% of your immune function is directly tied to your gut microbiota. 70%. So when these ancestral bacteria just vanish, we're not just talking about experiencing a little occasional bloating. Your gut regulates inflammation, it produces antibodies, and it actively prevents infections. Losing these microbes means you're leaving your immune system fundamentally compromised. And that brings us to dysbiosis. When we lose these ancestral bacteria, we experience dysbiosis, which is just a fancy way of saying there is a total ecological collapse happening inside your gut. The data actually shows that losing these specific bacteria creates a real predisposition to hyperglycemia, or high blood sugar. So we aren't just changing what we eat, we're shifting our internal ecosystem in a way that actively drives chronic diseases, like type 2 diabetes. All right, moving on to section 1, the Western probiotic mismatch. You've probably seen a million ads for expensive, lab-formulated probiotic pills, but when you compare them, they often just provide redundant strains. Meanwhile, traditional African diets offer a true holistic solution. Western pills typically rely on a super narrow band of generic bacteria, and they drop them into a hostile, urbanized gut environment that honestly can't even sustain them. Heritage diets, on the other hand, actively change the gut's environment from the ground up, so healthy microbes can actually thrive there. I absolutely love this quote from our sources. They say using these standard commercial probiotics is ecologically redundant, akin to watering a flooded garden. Think about it. If the soil of your gut is fundamentally broken by a modern diet, dropping a monoculture pill into the mix just isn't going to fix the ecosystem. You don't need a quick fix, you need actual ecological engineering. Which brings us nicely to section 2, Africa's ecological engineering tools.
For centuries, African culinary traditions have been utilizing natural fermentation as this brilliant everyday biotechnology. Let's look at a few of the real heroes highlighted in the source material. We've got Oji, which degrades anti-nutrients, Kunu, which restores the gut barrier, and Nunu, which actually modulates insulin sensitivity. These aren't just standard beverages or gruels, they are highly evolved biotechnologies. Oji, for instance, is a fermented cereal gruel traditionally used to treat diarrhea because of its incredibly potent lactic acid bacteria. Kunu is a millet-based drink that actively combats the leaky gut associated with our modern diets. And Nunu, a fermented milk, acts directly on your metabolic health.
Let's expand the map a bit and look at a few more examples. Again, these aren't just foods, they are complex reservoirs of lactobacillus in beneficial life cultures that easily rival any commercial supplement out there. We have kenki from Ghana, mahu from Zimbabwe, togwa from Tanzania, and ugba from Nigeria. These daily staples introduce just immense microbial diversity right into the digestive system. And what's really beautiful about this is that they're home prepared, using simple, accessible techniques passed down through generations. It's perfectly bridging cultural identity with profound, hard-hitting nutritional science. Let's dig into how this actually works in section 3, the science of fermentation. You might be wondering, how does a simple little seed turn into a medicinal powerhouse? Well, take a look at the meticulous, centuries-old process of creating dawa, which comes from the African locust bean tree. By boiling the seeds, packing them tightly in banana leaves, and just allowing the natural microorganisms to take over the course of a few days, traditional healers are quite literally brewing a potent, health-enhancing compound right there in the village. So what's actually happening on a chemical level? By essentially pre-digesting the food, fermentation massively enhances the bioavailability of vital vitamins and minerals. It makes them incredibly easy for your body to just soak up and absorb. You see, raw grains and legumes have these built-in chemical defenses called anti-nutrients, things like phytic acid, that actually block our bodies from absorbing minerals like iron and zinc.
Fermentation completely shatters those defenses. It's this brilliant evolutionary strategy that lets us extract maximum nutrition with minimal digestive strain. It is incredibly rare and, frankly, just amazing to find a single food source that acts as both the fertilizer, meaning the prebiotic, and the seed, meaning the probiotic. But indigenous ingredients like iru do exactly this. They pull double duty, dominating the gut with beneficial bacillus strains while simultaneously providing the exact fibers needed to sustain them long term. And here is where it all comes together. Short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs. Fermented African foods heavily stimulate the production of these short-chain fatty acids, bridging the gap between cold, hard nutritional science and holistic communal health. When the probiotics from foods like kenki or dawa consume those prebiotics we just talked about, they release these fatty acids. This is the ultimate goal, right here. These acids directly nourish your intestinal wall, they shut down systemic inflammation, and they act as your primary defense against the metabolic diseases associated with modern urban living. Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, Reclaiming Your Heritage Health. So how do we actually apply this to our daily lives? Well, the good news is we can reclaim our heritage health. Traditional fermented foods are, quite literally, ecological engineering tools. When you consume them, they provide a lactobacillus-rich acidic niche that helps reseed those missing old friends. And by doing that, they create a tough environment where harmful pathogens just simply cannot survive. It all comes down to this. You don't need expensive Western pills. You need to come back to the village. Follow us to start your 4-step heritage restoration plan today. Ditch the redundant supplements, source authentic ancestral staples, eat them daily, and literally watch your metabolic health transform as you reseed your microbiome. So, are you ready to stop treating just the symptoms and start actually healing your ecosystem? You can find everything you need to reclaim your heritage health right at the link in our bio. But I want to leave you with this one question to really think about. If our modern, ultra-sanitized diets are slowly starving the internal ecosystems that have protected us for millennia, what else are we losing in the very name of convenience? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Now go feed your old friends.